Welcome back, everyone, to Tour Season. My name is Darren, your host. Always your host, hopefully. I want to shout out again the sponsors. Thanks for having us. Tour Season is pretty simple. All it is me, the host. We're taking a tour through people's lives. Obviously, COVID-19 is a thing, so we're not really touring as a band. So I said, hey, let's take a shift and talk about people where they are, where they've been, how they got there, and where they're going. So today's podcast is pretty cool. This is anytime I've been saying like, hey, I'm going to podcast with this person, people are like, oh, who is it? And I just I try to give a marker of how people may know her. And so today, I've got Alena Pitts with me. You may have known her from a movie called War Room. Alena, you there?
Yes. Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so happy you're here. Welcome to Tour Season.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Cool. Well, before we get started, I need to let people know kind of how we know each other, or really, honestly, the last time we saw each other. I'm going to give my account, and then you can give your,
Okay.
see if you like remember it the same way I do. So,
Okay.
Chima and I, everyone, we started busking, which just means playing music for money on the streets of the Bishop Arts District, literally 7 summers ago. And we would just do that. If it was sunny and it was the weekend, you could find us on the corner out there playing music. And one of the nights, Alena and her family were walking by. I guess they had just gone out to eat out there because it's a great place to go. And I had recognized her because she had been to my church, my home church, and I had seen her and her family around. And I was like, "Hey, Alena, you should come over and sing," because I knew she sung. And you were so scared. I don't know
Yeah.
if you remember this. You were terrified, and I was like, "Hey, just come over. Like, we'll sing a song." And it took us like 20 minutes to get you like ready. But you sang Adele. Do you remember this at all?
Kind of. I remember being scared. I remember being mad at my parents for like encouraging me to do it. And I remember I was really into like Adele. I was kind of emo, and so
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
had me. Yeah.
That is so funny. But you did great, by the way. I don't know if I told you that night. I'm sure I did. Hopefully I did. But I thought you did awesome. So
Thanks.
it's kind
I'm
of
glad
cool.
I needed to put.
Yeah, that life has really been our life pretty much. The past 7 years, we do something that we're super scared to do and afraid to do, and we do it, and it turns out to be kind of fun.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's kind of the last time I feel like this last time we actually have seen each other. And they're doing. There's an air blower right outside my window right now, everyone. If you're wondering what that noise is, go away. Anyways, so Alena, obviously, I tend to do my homework. I haven't really done my homework whenever with you yet, though. So just kind of telling everyone who you are, where you're from, and kind of what you consider yourself doing these days.
Okay. I'm Alena Pitts. I live in Nashville. I'm originally from Dallas, Texas. A lot of people know me from the movie War Room, which I did 6 years ago, which is crazy because it feels like
Crazy.
maybe yesterday.
Yeah.
And then through that, I think God has just kind of elevated my platform in a way. And so now I do things like write and speak and sing and travel. And so that's me. Right now I'm kind of focusing on music and trying to just discover my passions and the things that I'm passionate about right now. And so
Yeah.
that's tricky, just like figuring out what I want to do. I think because also I'm really young. And so I feel like a lot of my friends aren't having to face this question. But I think when like giving
Yeah.
you like opportunities, it's like kind of sitting on, I guess,
Right.
what he's giving
So
not do on.
how old are you?
I'm 16.
16. Yeah, see, that's wild. Um, and so that kind of answer that you just, hey, this is what I'm doing, like, comes from like a 25-year-old, you know?
Yeah.
So like, I totally get it. Like, yeah, most of my friends are like, hey, what do I want to eat for lunch, you know? um, so honestly, most of my friends now are that way too. So, That's really really cool. So I want to talk about well your childhood. Like as a kid, how did you get into? I guess how did you find yourself in war room? Like how did you be like? Oh, I think I want to act, or you know,
Yeah.
how did that come about?
Crazy story. It was quite literally like straight from God because I
Yeah,
wasn't acting. My biggest concern in life at 11 years old or 10 was like soccer and like if I was going to be able to make my game. And so
yeah,
I like having to leave a soccer practice early because my mom wanted to talk to me and she was like, "Hey, you've got an opportunity to like audition for this movie. Do you want to do it?" And I was like, "Sure," because I'm just kind of like a sure
yeah,
person. I was like,
yeah.
"Sure, I'm not gonna get it, but like it would be cool to I guess audition." I never even thought about acting or anything like that, and so I
Yeah.
started auditioning, and they started like asking for more and asking for more auditions and more tapes, and so I was like, oh, like I might have a shot at
This
this.
could yeah this could go well.
So, long story short, I auditioned over the course of like 2 or 3 months, and it was between me and a girl. And I think what came down to it was like just who can live out the faith aspect of it. And so,
Yeah,
because of my faith and I guess the people in my family and things like that, I ended up getting picked to be in it. And yeah, it was very crazy. And
that
I
is
did not.
pretty cool. You know, the last guy I had on seems Jared Sandler. If you've ever listened to a Ranger game um, on the radio, you've heard his voice, his younger voice. He
Mhm.
does the pre and post game for the Texas Rangers.
Okay.
And one of the things he was saying, his very first time he ever called play by play for a game was he was moving into his college dorm at USC, and got a call from a friend and said, "Hey, our the guy who's supposed to do play by play for the Duke USC volleyball game is sick. Do you want to fill in?" And he has at this point he has zero play by play hours under his belt. He's never done it live before, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm in." And he's and I'm just like, "Bro," and he goes, "Dude, you never say no. Like you never say no to things." So that's really cool that you're like, "Yeah, I'm kind of a sure person." You know, you just say, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll do it." I feel like I'm the same way, and it definitely has its risks and rewards, but I feel like the rewards like outweigh the risks. Like imagine if you had never done that. You know, like what path? I'm
I
sure
don't
you
know.
still would. You know, right? Like, do you ever think about that?
I do. I think about it a lot when I feel like resentful towards, I guess, what God has given me, just in like I don't think it's always fun to be in the public eye or like to like you're given this responsibility and you're like, I didn't ask for this. Like,
Yeah,
why? I want to go play soccer. But
yeah.
like the reward definitely outweighs, I guess, the burden of it. So I'm grateful.
Cool. Do you still play soccer?
Kind of like just for fun,
Just for
but
fun.
not like competitively.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So you're getting all these callbacks, if you will. I'm sure that I think that's the correct term.
Yeah.
Um, and talk about like when you found out that it's gonna be you.
I just started crying and I don't know why. I think this was the process of auditioning was so long and so intense and it was all over the phone and so I hadn't even like
Wow.
phoned at anybody and so I think a lot of it was just like, oh my gosh, like what I've been working hard at, like it had become like
Yeah.
I was really working at, and so I think I was just really grateful that like it ended up working out in my favor, and then also I think I was just overwhelmed and freaked out because like what does this mean, like am I
Yeah.
moving
Yeah.
3 months? So I think I was just my 10-year-old self was like taking it all in and it
As a
was very
10-year-old, I can't even imagine. There's
yeah.
emotions that I still can't deal with as a 29-year-old. So I'm like, yeah, that definitely is overwhelming. So Chima and I did American Idol last year,
Okay.
um, and the audition process is long too. Like even after, so they make it on TV. If you watch the show, it's like, oh, these people have lined up to see the judges, and they're walking in one by one to see the judges, and they say yes or no, and then like that's it. But really, in real life, it's like these big stadium um, like auditions, and the judges aren't even there. It's just producers, and then you walk in a room with like 12 to 15 other people, and you all sing like short amount of songs. And then they're picked, and they pick. Sometimes they just don't pick anyone, And then after that, you do another one, and then another one, then another one, and then like finally they're like, okay, you made it to the judges round, pretty much. And then you wait a long time for that one too, and so it's just a ton of waiting. And so
Yeah.
like when people actually get the gold ticket to go to Hollywood, it really is one of those moments where you're just like, finally, I have done all this. I filled out all this stupid paperwork, all these things. I've done all this, and so in a way, obviously, like we weren't in a movie, but I know what you mean. Like when you've done, especially when you've put like your mind to something like I'm gonna do this, and it finally comes to fruition, like that like weight that comes off your shoulders, like boom. But I really feel like there was another weight that like almost like sat on your shoulders. After that, you're just okay. Like now I have to really like
Yeah.
you know
This is a job, and I can't like say
yeah
no. I'm in it.
yeah. Well, you did a great job in the movie. Like it to me, it's such a great movie, and um, having known Priscilla before the movie and knowing that she was going to be in it, and obviously seeing you in it, like I know our church, the Oaks, as a church, we felt like family. Hey, this is our family, like on the big screen, like it's really cool. And so talk about your relationship with her, and in the movie, and then kind of how it's kind of blossomed since then.
So Priscilla Shire is my aunt. She's not like technically by blood, but it's too much to explain, so I
Yeah,
just say my aunt. Um,
yeah.
she's my mom are like sister cousins, I guess. So they've
Okay,
grown up
okay.
best friends. And so that was more of like a dream come true for my mom because she was getting to spend like 3 months with my aunt nonstop. We moved out to Charlotte, North Carolina, for 3 months to film it. And
Wow.
so it was just me, her, and my mom like the whole time. And so it was a great bonding experience. I think I just got to see like the fun side of her more because I think I knew like the
Yeah.
side of her that like my aunt and like she would discipline me and my cousins because we were always upset. And so I think I got to just like have fun with her, and being on set with her was a lot of fun. She definitely, I think, was the reason I was a lot more comfortable in that environment and doing
Yeah.
it. Like I did what I knew. Um, and the people in the movie, like the producers and all the things, they were all great. But it was
Yeah.
definitely amazing to have like someone that you're related to and someone that like you know really well to be with you.
Yeah.
And so from there, I think we've gotten lots of opportunities to do different things together, which has been cool just because I love her and she loves me. I love working with her.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
feel
then I
like the
also
on
love
screen.
the family. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like the on screen, um, like chemistry
Hmm.
would be great because yeah, this is someone that I actually, when I am getting disciplined, like it feels like it in real life.
It,
Um,
yeah.
that's really cool. Yeah, so man, the movie did so good, and it's one of those like you kind of don't. I've literally only seen the movie one time,
Mhm.
and it's something that I still to this day haven't really forgot, and it's just one of those things where it just kind of creeps back into your life, like different parts of the movie or just different, obviously, themes of like, hey, I need to get into my war room,
Mhm.
stuff like that. And so I really appreciate what you guys were able to put out and do it. I think it's a marvel of a movie. So thank you. So post movie, like as far as you and your friends, like when that came, like were they did they look at you differently as a kid, or was it just like back to regular, playing soccer games? Like how was it with you and your friend group?
So something about me is like when I'm doing something or I'm going somewhere, I don't tell people. And so they'll be like, "Hey, why can't you come to this?" And I'll just be like, "I have something to do. Like it's just a thing." And so that's I made fun of because people were like, "She's just doing a thing, guys." And so when
That
the
is
movie
funny.
finally came out, like no one knew that I was doing it. No one knew. Like none of my
Wow.
anything about it because I just didn't like talking about it. And then I think, like, sadly, the movie did force me to just like put up boundaries that I think I'm still working on, like
Yeah.
today, like to get over and to like heal from. Because there definitely is like a side to people or some people that like they want to be your friend just because of what you do. And so I think that can like kind of rip away like the authenticity of a relationship, and then also like
For sure.
it makes you insecure because you're like you don't want to just be friends with me for me. And so I think like as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old, I was very just like guarded, and my people were my people, and I kept those people and didn't allow new people in.
Yeah,
And so thankfully I've like gotten better at it as the years have gone on.
definitely.
But it affect relationships and friendships. My friends that like my friends were very supportive
Yeah,
and
yeah,
very,
because there is layers, right?
yeah, definitely. But then I think just the people on the outside, I didn't tell much just because it was just like, I don't know, not worth telling. And then
Yeah,
also I wanted to keep my friends.
I
So
totally get that. There was a time in my life when someone, when I met someone, one of the first things that would come out of my mouth was, I'm a musician and I do this and you should follow my band and things like this. And I just got tired of being that person, that guy that's like, oh, all he does is talk about what he does, you know. And so probably the last 3 4 years, um, when I meet someone or like whatever it is, I make it a habit to not really tell people what I do until it like comes up very naturally in conversation. Because I want people to know me, like first. Like I want you to know me first before you know anything like as far as my profession or like being on American Idol was cool for a second. Like, to be like, oh yeah, I hate saying it now because it's just like, oh, let me go watch you. And I'm like, well, I made it a little bit. I didn't really make it very far, so I'm not like super famous. So I try to make it to where like, hey, this is just, my name's Darren. I'm from Dallas. Like, I love sports, blah blah blah. Before I'm like, oh yeah, I've got a band, and you should check us out, and we're on Spotify or whatever. People used to say like, do you have a SoundCloud? And I was like, why do people listen to stuff on SoundCloud? It's so weird to me. But I totally get that, and I keep thinking, and I might say this a couple more times, but I just keep thinking, like as a kid, as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old, like having to make those kind of decisions is that must weigh like on your heart, like as far as like being guarded like that, and people might say, yeah, as a kid you should just be a kid, you know, but it is sad that has to happen sometimes. Um, so post movie, did you do anything musically like as a kid? Like were you singing, like writing things and like that, like you are now, or?
I think my parents will tell you that I've always just been like a performer. Like I was very, very shy, but like in my house, I was always like putting a show on or doing something like that. And so I've always sung, but I don't think I realized like, oh, I could do something with this.
Yeah.
So probably like the past 2 or 3 years. But for the most part, it was just like I sang, but like I'm not like good or anything. I just like to sing. So it wasn't like a dream of mine to like have as a career.
Yeah, yeah. Would
Yeah.
you say it's a dream now or what?
I think so. It's hard. I have commitment issues. Like, I think I have lots of passions and lots of desires and dreams. And so
Yeah,
I feel like when I just say one, like, I'm like, now people are expecting me to like follow through and do it, which I guess is
yeah.
good. I need like people to be,
You definitely need those people in your life for sure.
yeah.
No pressure though, but it is what it
Yeah.
is. That's cool. Yeah, music. When I was a kid, I always wanted to play baseball growing up. Like I wanted to go to the MLB. I used to sit in my living room and like act like I was throwing the ball on every pitch, and
Hmm.
that was the dream for me as a kid. And I ended up getting into college, playing a couple years of college baseball. Um, but it wasn't until like I picked up a guitar, which was at literally I got saved at church camp, and then like the typical like saved at church camp kid,
Hmm.
and I came home and I'm like, I'm on fire for the Lord, and just felt like the Lord would say, hey, like I want you to lead worship. And so one of my favorite worship leaders, Clayton Brooks, I was like, he plays guitar, so I'm gonna play guitar, and so I got this crappy guitar and I taught myself how to play. And it really wasn't until I started playing music for people where I realized like this is a passion. This is a passion, man. It's brand new, but how it kind of can affect people and help people through different times, whether that be like tragic or like happy, celebratory. Like it's definitely worth seeing through. So wherever you're at with that, I'm sure you're gonna make someone happy. So
Thank you.
for sure. So talk about. I want to talk about your mom. We were talking about this a couple days ago, and I wanted to bring it up. And so, can you just kind of talk about like what kind of happened? Like, where were you in your train of thought? I'm gonna share my moment as well because I lost my mom a couple years ago as well. But I've really found, especially with people who have lost a parent, that talking with other people who have lost a parent, like you kind of get an idea of like, well, here's another way that I can deal with this because if you're like me, it comes in waves. There's different moments where you're just like, this is how I shared. I want to share my failures and my successes with you, but I can't. And sometimes like when something happens, I'm like, man, I just wish my mom was here. So I want to. So can you kind of elaborate on that and
Yeah.
as best you can for sure.
So in July of 2018, my mom passed away, and she was very healthy, like life of the party, super fun, and it was super sudden, like within hours. I wasn't even at home. Like she had a heart condition, but it was never like a problem,
Yeah.
and so randomly she just had like stopped breathing, and that was shocking to say the least. Like
Yeah.
we went, I guess it was like within an hour or so, and I wasn't home, so I went from wherever I was to the hospital, and you're just like hit with this news of like, hey, your mom's not here anymore. And that was, I think looking back, I'm just like, gosh, like I don't know how I'm like still here. Like that news is
Yeah.
not, like it's beyond shocking. And so I think we definitely had to grieve very publicly. My mom was an author and a speaker, and so with that comes lots of people that also grieve to some extent. And so that was hard too, just like having to grieve in the public eye. But it was also beautiful just getting to see like all the people that she's impacted through the years. And so I'd say that my biggest like healing factor was definitely music. Like that's why I say in the past couple of years I've become more
Yeah.
passionate. It's
For
definitely
sure.
helped me heal. Um, and I think it was just like the first thing I turned to. Like I can't, like I'm a very slow processor. I don't like speak a lot. I'm very quiet. And so for me, like music was just like the way that I could express how I was feeling. And then
Definitely.
through that, I got asked to perform at one of what my mom had like a couple of events coming up, and so that she couldn't make because she had passed away. And so they asked me and my dad to go and speak at it, and I was like, can I sing? I'd rather sing. Like I don't want to speak. And
Yeah.
so I sang a song called Rescue by Lauren Daigle, which quite literally rescued me. And so
Wow.
I was
Yeah.
just passionate about it, and I sang it. I guess it was in like September or October, and my mom passed away in July. And so looking back, I'm just what was I thinking? Like
Yeah.
how? So I got up on stage and sang Rescue, and it was just like this, like, it was so refreshing and so like healing for me. I think there's something about like being vulnerable in front of others that heals others,
Yeah.
but also heals you. And so that's been the good part about grieving publicly, is just that like through talking about it, I've been able to heal. And so I say all that to like, I don't know, tell you guys about what I've been through, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think hearing all of that, um, we share a lot parallel. Like, there's a big parallel there. So my mom had brain cancer, and
Yeah.
I was actually out doing like some music therapy, if you will, during Hurricane Harvey. I was down in Houston, and we were playing music for Salvation Army, like people, like, and got a call that she had a stroke. And what really happened is um, that she had a seizure, and then she was in the hospital. This was probably, I mean, Hurricane Harvey, I think was like September of 2018. So this is, right when you're doing these speaking engagements, and by December, she had gone through chemotherapy and radiation, and they said, if she does radiation, she will live for another 14 months, and if she doesn't, 6 weeks. And I was like, wow, because it was stage 4, and so she did it, and actually, like, I hadn't even met. Hadn't even met my wife at that point, but by December I had, and I was like, hey, I want you to meet my mom. Well, fast forward to the top of the next year, I was on tour, and we had a 2-week break in our tour, and so I literally left my house, and so my mom and stuff, and she was fine. She was up and walking, and she was even cooking stuff. She was doing really well. And I left for tour, and then I came back for tour from tour probably like a month later, and my brother called me. He's like, "Hey, doctors are giving Mom 3 days to live," and I was like, "But how?" Because she was just so strong, and it was this whirlwind of like, wait, like for real, and so. Luckily she actually held on for a week, so a lot of our family got to come in from different parts of the, and just kind of be with her. But they asked me to perform at her funeral, at her celebration, and I was just all for it, and I was like, absolutely. And so my band was gonna play a couple of her favorite songs, and I put together this like slideshow that went with all the songs, and it was gonna be this awesome thing. And I was doing okay through most of the the talking and stuff, and then one of our old pastors just brought up my adoption, and I just lost it. And I remember at that time, so she was just my girlfriend, but my wife, I was sitting there and I was just like, oh gosh, and I just like totally leaned and like was wailing on her. And literally at this point, it was our old pastor talking, and then it was supposed to be our band was right after him. And so he says this, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. And he goes, and now we're going to have Darren and D and Chi come up and perform a couple songs. I'm just like, I have to sing right now? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I just got up on stage and I was like, this is so hard. Like, how do I do this right now? But we got through it. But getting through those songs was some of the hardest things I've ever had to do. You talking about how the song Rescue saved you, rescued you. Music does that. And we're living proof that it does that. Like, it definitely can bring us through. And so that's how I know that music is so important for other people. In times when people try to escape things, whether that be like their day job even, or school, or an abusive relationship or whatever, they turn to music. And you and I, we can be vessels that help people escape things. And that's how I know it. That's how I know it's super, super, super important.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm glad I made it through that talk too. So,
Yeah.
So talk to me. So obviously in the last couple of years, music's been. You were saying that earlier. When did you move to Nashville? I did not know you were in Nashville.
So, funny story. We were supposed to move. We were actually in the process of moving when my mom passed away. So we had closed our house in Nashville. My dad is a pastor at a church here, and so she was super excited about like the moving process and all of that. She couldn't wait to like just watch my dad just like, I don't know, get into what he's passionate about and things. And so we closed on the house, we moved in, and we went back to Dallas for like a homegoing party, I guess, or like a going. And she passed away like the day before that. And so it was just like this awkward timing of like, so where do we live? Like we just closed on a house in Nashville. And so we ended up moving, and my dad had asked me like, hey, what are you thinking? Like, should we move or should we just stay in Dallas? And I was just like, my mom was the most excited about this move. Like for us to not like put her to shame. Like, so we ended up moving, and it was one of the best decisions. So we've been healing here for 2 years.
Awesome. Well, I actually, the last couple of years we've started doing a lot more in Nashville. So next time we come through, I
Yeah,
need
for
to
sure.
I need to be like, hey, what's up? Um,
Please.
and chill. What's your go-to food spot in town? What's your favorite?
Hard. It depends on like the type of food you're
Okay,
talking. The one
let's say hot chicken. What's your favorite?
oh, I'm like the typical Hattie B's person, just
I
because they
am
have really
too. I am too. I freaking love it.
yeah. Have you tried Prince's?
I have no,
Everyone
I haven't.
as well. Yeah,
Okay, okay. I
yeah.
always tell people to get the pimento mac at Hattie B's, and it's
Okay.
like
I
super
just get
good.
chicken.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a place in Nashville called Edley's Barbecue,
Okay.
and I've probably had three or four places out there for that art barbecue, and Edley's to me is the closest to what you would call Texas barbecue.
Yeah.
Um,
There's different. Like
yeah,
moving here, getting barbecue is not the same as like barbecue in Texas.
right. Yeah, I'm a barbecue nerd. I'm a part of this group on Facebook called North Texas Barbecue Addicts. It's a real thing. There's like there's like 60,000 people in this group. It's wild. Um,
Oh, wow.
because it's a big thing in Texas. Anyways, they what I love about this group is you can literally post like, "Hey, I'm headed to this city. Where should I get barbecue?"
Yeah.
And everyone's like, "Oh, boom, 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 boom." So this one time I was coming home from Knoxville, Tennessee to Dallas, and I posted my Google route. I said, "Hey, this is my route home. I have all the time in the world to kill. Where do I need to eat at?" And I got like 6 or 7 spots. Obviously, I didn't stop at all those places, but it was just cool. Like people were just like, "Boom, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta do this." But I
Yeah.
would say Edley's Barbecue to me is one of the best in Nashville, and they
Okay.
have a. Do you like banana pudding?
Yes.
Okay, they have a banana pudding there that
Okay.
is so freaking good. Like
Okay. I have to
it'll
try.
yeah, it'll make your day, and it could come as like a side, so it's like super good. I love it. Anyways, enough about food because I'm just like, hey, I'm gonna hop on a plane right now.
Yeah.
Uh, so as far as music goes, like, are you in pursuing like a writing career right now? Are you co-writing with people? Like, what are you doing with music right now?
Right now, I'm in the process of praying about it. I just
Yeah,
not dropped out of high school, but I'm now doing online school, which is like no better time to do that, anyways, when
yeah,
most people.
perfect time for that stuff.
So I've been doing that just so that I can focus on. I think the past 2 years, I've just been like kind of like doing a bunch of different things and not mastering like one thing. And so now I'm focusing on mastering one thing. And so right now, I'm just praying about like what that even looks like.
Yeah,
A couple like co-writing sessions. I've done a couple, but I'm getting a couple more scheduled. And then it just looks like, what do I do from here? So
yeah. Well, how are you at co-writing? Because I know it can be it's totally different than songwriting on your own.
yeah, it's very different. It's a stretch for me, like, cause I would
Yeah,
just prefer to do it all on my own and like relying on someone else and like listening to their like criticism and things like that. That's very different than like
yeah,
doing it all on your own. But I feel like when you find the right people, a lot of it is just like finding the right people too. So
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, even trusting them to be like,
Mhm.
yeah, this sounds better than that, or this and
Yeah.
that. It's
Yeah.
tough, and Chima and I have been together. We've been a band for 7 years, and we rarely write music together because our influences are just so they're so different. From
Yeah.
like Chima loves R&B, hip hop, neo soul, and I love country music. I love rock music, singer songwriter, folk music, and
Yeah.
so it's such an opposite spectrum, um, but we complement each other very well. And then our band kind of does a really good job too. But I always say, people are like, "What's your music like?" I was like, "Well, it's like a musical smoothie, but it tastes
Yeah.
really good." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, okay." And I don't know why that clicks, but it just does. People are just like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right, I see what you're saying." Um,
Good
but yeah,
term.
songwriting is a different beast, and as I've grown older and started doing more co-writing, it's like you have to. it's almost like the 10,000 hours type of thing, where you just have to get those reps, and so you know what works best for you, so that you can present it yourself best for someone else that comes in the room and wants to work with you. That way they know what to expect and what not to expect, and they can kind of, it's a give and a take and an ebb and a flow. So I'm curious to see where that goes for you. That's exciting though.
I'm excited, also nervous because, like you said, it's uncomfortable and it's like this weird position of like finding your flow and
Yeah.
yeah,
And there's not a better time right now to be in Nashville. You got all the
yeah,
time in the world. There's a ton of people out there just trying to write songs, so it just seems like it's perfect.
yeah.
Cool. So as far as your future goes, like, I was actually, before we did this podcast, I had my brakes redone. And I was talking to the guy who was doing my brakes, and he said, I've got my dream board up in my room. I want to be a NASCAR driver. So he's telling me.
Okay.
He's been driving. So do you have a dream board? Like, is there something that you want to do when you grow up? You're like, okay, this is what I want to do.
I feel like anything that I could have imagined so far, I'm either getting to do or have gotten to done. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not a big, like, God kind of is just
He's like, hey,
all of
this is
and
a full plate of blessings. Here
yeah.
you go.
So I've just kind of just been like, I don't know, taking everything that He's been giving me, and it turns out I'm passionate about the things that He's giving me, and like I enjoy doing the things that He's given me. So right now I
Turns
don't
out
really
he
have
knows you.
like expectation. I'm just like, okay, God, I'm trusting You. Keep giving me
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think what I love about something I love about life is, as you get older, like these new passions and these interests start kind of making yourself known. Almost how, like, when you're a kid, you hated eating vegetables, or maybe you liked them. I don't know, but like I hated eating vegetables. I hated eating like I remember I hated. Do you like onions?
No,
Okay, so I hated onions to the core, and this one time, my sister forced me to eat an entire like onion, like one of the ones that come on like a vine,
uh-huh.
and they're like small. She forced me to eat this onion, and I was like, I remember bawling because she was babysitting me. I remember like bawling at the table, like, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. And she basically shoved this onion into my, and literally, I don't remember a time after that where I haven't liked onions. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. Yeah. That's basically what God has done.
Yeah. It's so weird. It's kind of like these new things are revealing itself to me. Like, I've always liked food, obviously, but I've always liked barbecue. But I didn't know that I had such a passion for it until like the last like year or so. And so whenever I live in an apartment now, but whenever I can get an actual like backyard, I'm gonna start like smoking meats, like barbecues and do
Yeah.
stuff like that. Because I think it's just so much fun, especially because it's such a I like hosting. We like hosting like things, and so it's such one of those things where it brings people together, around this big old slab of meat where everyone gets a couple bites, and there's fixings and whatever, and it just makes it's a really relational type thing, especially because you're waiting on it to be ready, so you're just kind of sitting back and talking, and that's one of the more passions. And so I'm actually really excited to see what kind of new passions, because you have so much. You probably hear this all the time. You just have so much time. You're so young.
Yeah.
Side note: people tell me that all the time. I'm 29. Like, oh, you're so young. You got so much time. So as a 16-year-old, like, I can't imagine even like 5 years from now, the new like inspirations that are gonna come for you. Like maybe even like directing a movie.
Whoa.
I know, isn't that crazy? I felt the weight of that as I said it, so
Okay.
that's wild. So who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, thank you for coming on. Like I've enjoyed our chat so much, and
Yeah.
like I said, when I next time I get to Nashville, I'm gonna shoot you a message, and maybe we set up a co-writing session. Who knows?
For sure.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
I would love that. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And I guess we'll see you guys on tour season later.
Okay.